Hey guys, I wanted to get on here and talk about our life update. We've had a lot going on, and it's been a little bit since we've posted the long form videos on YouTube. So I wanted to get on here and explain to everybody what's been going on, so at least you have an idea. So we've had some serious life changes through our family. The first reason that I was off of YouTube for a while, I ended up getting sick, and I was sick for about a month, and it just absolutely would not let go of me for anything. I went to one of the walk-in clinics. They diagnosed it and gave me meds. The meds helped, never did get rid of it. It took about a month before I actually could get rid of it. I was sick, like really sick. Anyway, I guess things were going around, and of course we live in a cold weather state anyway as our regular residents. It just absolutely would not let go of me for anything. I really needed a second round of medicine, but I'm stubborn, so I did not go back, because I always feel like, well, maybe if I took this or if I took that, maybe it would help, but it doesn't. Anyway, that was the first thing that happened that caused us to take a lengthy break on YouTube. But the second thing that happened was we had a family member that had a stroke. It was a mild stroke. She was in the hospital for a few days and was able to regain most everything back. You could tell that there was a little bit of a problem with the mouth and a little bit of a problem with one of the eyes. But when she had the stroke, she couldn't make a sentence and everything. It was definite that she had the stroke. So anyhow, they were doing all kinds of tests, and she was in ICU for a bit, and she ended up having a relatively full recovery from it and went home. And then this was probably about the end of the time that I was sick, and she ended up having a massive stroke in the night, and it was bad. They had to life flight her to one of the major hospitals, because we live in a smaller area outside of a bigger area. And so they had to life flight her, and she was non-responsive. She was put on a ventilator immediately. She could not breathe for herself. She would squeeze people's fingers. We thought that she was responding to their request. We don't know if it was involuntary or not. Sometimes the girls would ask her to wiggle her toes or something, and she seemed to do that. So we thought that she might actually recover from it. And she was on life support for, I believe, something like 17 days that she was on the ventilator, and just was not really coming out of it. Sometimes it appeared that she recognized people, but we couldn't really tell. Obviously, she wasn't able to communicate with anybody. She was in a coma for quite a while before she actually even woke up. Her eyes would open up and she would kind of look at people, but you couldn't tell if she was looking at them or looking through them, is the best description that I have. I'm not a medical professional, so I'm just telling you the way that I understand it. So she was in the coma for a while. Then when she finally woke up, she was still on the ventilator, unable to communicate. And finally, the doctors said that they had to take her off the ventilator, and the only way that she was going to be able to breathe for herself was if she had a trach. And there was a very strong possibility she was going to be a vegetable, because the MRIs showed that the brain damage was substantial. Anyhow, her brother and sister and mother decided that she would never want to live that way, because it was unclear whether or not she would even come out of it. And by the extent of the brain damage, it appeared that she would never recover from it. Although there are miracles, their thought was that she would just never come out of it. So they just decided to go ahead and take the ventilator off and let happen what was going to happen. So she ended up surviving about a day and a half off of the ventilator, and she never really communicated with anybody. Then she ended up passing. So normally, everybody deals with death in a different way. I've obviously dealt with death in the past before. For whatever reason, this time it hit me hard, and I really don't know why it hit me that hard. Anytime you go through death, Obviously, it's going to affect you differently, one person or another, depending on how close you are to that person, if it's a family member or a friend or something. This one, for whatever reason, certainly hit me harder than most, and I'm not really sure why, but I kind of went into almost like an introvert kind of state where I just kept to myself, and we went down to Florida and worked on our house for a while. And for me, that was an escape. And we got a lot done to the house. We intended on working on it anyway, but for me, that was how I escaped. So I kept my mind busy, and that way then I couldn't think about it near as much. Anyhow, I think the reason why it hit me so hard, it was my brother's girlfriend, and he has been a widow for 3 years now, and he met his girlfriend who passed, I don't want to say her name on here, but he met her about 6 months after his wife passed away. His wife had an embolism and passed away. And anyway, so he met his girlfriend, and they were super close. And but then towards the end, when she had the first stroke, he was with her and took her to the hospital. And then he was there the night that she had the massive stroke and called the ambulance, and they life flighted her and everything. But I think the reason why it hit me so hard, he was losing a second partner in life in less than 3 years, just right at 3 years. And I can't imagine in the process of losing a family member, obviously her family stepped in to take over. That is typical. That's what people do. So her family stepped in to take over. And in the process, although my brother had done so much for her over the 2.5 years that they were together, and he was always fixing things for her. They went everywhere together. They went out to eat together, went to the movies together, the normal things that you would expect a couple to do. And they had good times, they had bad times. So they had a time period where they broke up, and then they ended up ultimately getting back together, and we're still great friends. But I guess the part that bothered me so much is when the family stepped in to take over, they kind of pushed my brother aside as if his feelings didn't matter whatsoever. And he had been her partner for all this time, and she was not close with her family at all, to the point where she didn't even visit with her family at all until my brother talked her into getting back with her family, because her health was not good prior to having the strokes. So he said, you need to be a part of your family's life. So he talked her into getting back into her family's life, and then ultimately they came in and closed the door in his face when she passed, and it was bizarre to me. And they had done everything together, and he sat by her side in the hospital day after day, and then her family basically just kind of pushed him aside, like, what the heck? And so I think the way that he was mistreated was why I kind of had a hard time dealing with this. And I didn't bother to do any YouTube. I haven't been working. I literally took a break from life for a while, and I haven't really talked about this to anybody. Obviously the family knows, because we're watching my brother go through this. I've not discussed it with friends outside of the family. I've not discussed it here on YouTube. I've not discussed it with any of my business associates or anything. Definitely the last bit of time has been difficult. For some reason, I just I secluded myself. I don't know if that's the right word. I become a bit of a recluse, I think is the correct word, where I just kept to myself and didn't really deal with it a whole lot. And for some reason now, all of a sudden, I seem to be coming out of that. But I want to get back into YouTube and get back to everything that I love. I love working. My job is amazing, and I love doing YouTube and the videos and going to the parks and doing home improvements and whatever else we can find to do videos of. I just like doing that. It's a lot of fun for me. But the fact that I've not been posting regularly, I knew that there'd probably be a few questions. There's been a couple of people that we have friended through YouTube over the last few years, and we have spoke with them a little bit and kind of gave them a heads up because they knew something was amiss. I mean, we have been silent on YouTube, and that's just not us. So I thought it was time, it was necessary for me to get on here and explain all that to everybody. I just really don't know why it hit me so hard, and the only explanation I can come up with is that it must just be because of my upset for the way that my brother was treated. My brother has a big heart, would do anything for anybody if he could do it. The family almost acted like he might sweep in and steal all of her major valuables. And I mean, she was just an average person like the rest of us. There wasn't a bunch of valuables. So I don't even know why they would think such a thing. And she had costume jewelry. She didn't have money in the bank. The property that she lived in was a rental. So I don't know why the family would think that there was all these major things that needed to be protected from him, I guess is the way that I felt about it. That's the way he feels about it. They left a note for him and told him, anything that's not yours, you need to leave it here, leave your keys, and just... I can't explain the way that the note was, but the fact that it was just insulting for somebody who had been in her life for all this time, that he had met them and they all liked one another, and then all of a sudden when she passed, the family that was not in her life for years and years and years, all of a sudden now they want to sweep in and protect all of her valuables. I don't know. For us, we were more like heartbroken that this had happened to her, and instead the family didn't seem to really it didn't feel as though they were concerned about her. It felt like they were concerned if there was $1.50 left at the end of the rainbow. Maybe I'm just being an asshole saying it that way, but in my mind they were being assholes just worrying about the almighty dollar. There was real feelings involved and somebody who actually cared and loved her. So I just kind of did that recluse thing for a while that I've never done in my life, and just kind of backed out of being out in public. And we went to our place down in Florida and worked on it for a while, and I took a break from life. And I think it was a much needed break. I actually feel good. Near the end, we did start going places and doing things a little bit before we actually came back home. We've only been home for just a few days now. But I did think it was necessary to get on here and explain to everybody what's been going on. I've not quit YouTube. I just needed to take a break. I needed to have a break from my life so that I could recover. And I felt like I've done that now. My brother seems to be happier, and the family seems to be dealing with it. I know one of the things that my nephews and nieces were concerned about was, obviously, when she passed, some of the kids in the family are young. And so when you're talking to a child that's maybe 5 or 6 years old and trying to explain death to them, when they always seen, they would call her grandma. So you're having to explain death to a child, and so my family members are having a hard time trying to deal with that. Hopefully you guys all understand. I know we've all been through this before. It's not like this is the one and only time and I'm the only person, but I did feel that everybody deserved an explanation, and hope that everybody's doing great. And I'm looking forward to getting back to editing and looking forward to getting back in the parks, because man, I've really missed that and it's been a while. So stay tuned for the fun adventures ahead.